Welcome to the trenches. Welcome to the trenches! Too far? Too far. Alright, welcome to the trenches of World War I. We're going to take a look at trench warfare, some of the characteristics, and why it happened. So first, why was trench warfare a thing? Why did people feel the need to hide in these trenches? To answer that, we're going to come up to a fighting platform on a trench here. The reason trenches became necessary were advances in weaponry. Rifles became much more accurate. For example, this German Gewehr 98. It's a bolt-action rifle. I get 5 shots out of it. Very accurate, quite a long range. In the face of this kind of fire, it was a lot smarter to just hide underground. Second reason is machine guns. Machine guns made it so it was suicide to stand out in the open. Okay, here we go. Here we have a machine gun. Machine guns made it so one man could fire and literally kill hundreds. In the opening battles of World War I, one British machine gun killed hundreds of German troops before they stopped and took cover. In the face of fully automatic fire like this, it was just smarter to go underground, to hide from the fire, to dig trenches. Because of this, Europe was crisscrossed with miles and miles of trenches. Now we're going to go back to the standard weapons that a German soldier would have carried. Here we are. We're going to take you on a tour of the trenches. Now, trenches weren't only two parallel lines. If you can look here, there were miles and miles of reserve trenches, supply trenches, and trenches connecting trenches. The wounded would be taken back to other trenches, and supplies would come up through the trenches. Now we're going to take a look at some of the back trenches. You'd have places like storerooms. Here's a concrete pillbox. This was a lot safer place. You could hide out here and shoot at your enemy and hopefully not take fire in return. Now, if this was a realistic game, I would be cowering in fear in a reserve trench most of the game. Would not want to poke my head up. I would not want to die. If you take a look here, we have even dugout bedrooms. Soldiers would sleep in little dugouts underground. Let's see if we can sleep. Alright. J.R.R. Tolkien, the fantasy author, actually spent a lot of time in World War I in trenches, and many people believe that's where he came up with the idea of the hobbits living underground. Now, here we go to the front line. If you notice, our trench is wood paneled. We have a walkway. German trenches were a lot nicer than British and French trenches. British and French trenches, especially, were known to have lots of water in them. Soldiers would develop trench foot. It's a nasty disease that rots your foot when your foot is wet and never dries. Now here we are approaching the front line. Now the soldier would stand on here and fire. Since I don't want to get my head blown off today, we're going to use a trench periscope. These binoculars let me look across at the enemy without getting my head shot. Now, this space between the trenches is called the no man's land. It was full of broken equipment, vehicles, shell craters, and barbed wire. Now this razor wire really hurt to come across. The point wasn't so much that it would hurt you, is that it would slow you down, but it would not slow down the bullets of the enemy firing at you. Now, some of the other weapons that made their debut, we have our bolt-action rifles that were common. And we had hand grenades. If you needed to get a grenade in the trench, but you didn't want to expose your head, you would use a grenade. Oh, boom, that's a German grenade, often nicknamed potato mashers. Now, another common weapon in the trenches was the bayonet. If you can see, my rifle here is equipped with a bayonet. I can charge, but in the tight confines of trenches, a lot of times other weapons were used. Sharpened shovels, maces, and this is my personal favorite. Oh, let's try this again. A good old medieval club, a trench club, is used to attack and to brain the enemy. Now in World War I, another weapon that made its debut was poison gas. Poison gas killed many, many people and was used heavily on both sides. One of the most feared weapons, again, of World War I was poison gas. Here's our gas grenade. The sound of gas soldiers would rush as fast as they could to put their gas masks on. As you can see, I can't see as much, but it's a lot better than getting poisoned. Some of the other weapons to use, if the enemy got close enough and was in your trench, you had your trusty trench shotgun. This 12 gauge would pump out buckshot very, very quickly. In fact, it was so deadly the Germans protested its use, saying it caused undue pain and suffering. Now, if you were an officer or communications and the enemy got too close, a pistol is the way to go. This Luger 9mm was very common to use in the German army. As you can see, these miles of trenches and deadly weapons made it so it was very, very difficult to gain ground, and Europe broke down in what was called a stalemate, where neither side would gain much territory. Lots of fighting would happen over just a little bit of ground. So stay tuned for next episode, where we take a look at the weapons that broke the stalemate on the Western Front.